Welcome to College Russian, where you can learn Russian as if you were in a college classroom. Today we start at the very beginning, the alphabet. So let's get started. The Russian alphabet consists of 33 letters. It was created in the 9th century by two Greek monks known in Russian as Kirill and Methodiy, or in English, Cyril and Methodius. It is important to notice that they were Greek monks, and that is why the Russian alphabet to this day shares so many similarities with the Greek alphabet. In Russian, the alphabet is known as the Kirillitsa, or in English, the Cyrillic alphabet. And as you can see here, it's used in 6 modern Slavic languages. So the cool thing is once you learn how to read Russian, you could go to Bulgaria or Macedonia or Serbia and be able to read the language and the signs around you. So with that in mind, let's start on the Russian alphabets that the Russian letters that you already know. A, K, M, O, T, and C in Russian is always S. So, are you ready to practice reading? Try this one. Mama. Right. Any wild guesses about what this might possibly mean? Mom. Right. How about this one? Cock. Cock. Right. We get a little uncomfortable saying this word in English, but you better get used to it if you're going to learn Russian because they say it all the time. It means how. And this one? Tak. Tak, which means so in Russian. By the way, don't worry too much about memorizing these words. They're all just here to get you practicing reading. So don't try and memorize anything. If you end up picking them up in the end, then great, but that's not the goal of this lesson. The goal of this lesson is just to practice reading. Okay, let's try one more. Sok. Sok. Good. Let's keep practicing with these friends. Kot. Kot. Any guesses what this might mean? Кот говорит мяу. Meow. Good. A cat. And this one? Sto. Sto. How about this one? Кто. Кто. A little note on pronunciation. Notice that you don't say a hard O like you do in English. We say O. In Russian, the O opens up a little bit more at the end into an A sound. O, kot, sto, kto. And how about this one? This is one of my favorite phrases to say in Russian. Smakom. Smakom. Again, don't worry about memorizing these words. They're just here for you to have fun and to practice reading. Okay, so I'm calling this one a kind of friend. Maybe we could even call it an acquaintance. In Russian, the E is always a Y sound. For example, this is something you might take at the end of a semester. Test. Test. And this one. Keks. How about this one? Место. Место. And this one? Такое. Такое. Pay attention to the O at the end of место and the O in такое. Notice that the O at the end of место is getting pronounced more like an sound, and the O in такое is getting pronounced like an actual O. The reason for that is O's are only pronounced as O in Russian when it's stressed. So the stress in место is on the first syllable, therefore the O turns into sort of an sound. The stress is on the O in такое, and that's why it gets pronounced actually as an O. Okay, now we start into false friends, the ones that look like English counterparts but actually make a completely different sound in Russian. How about B? Does that look like it says bot to you? Well, you'd be wrong. It is actually the Russian word вот. Вот. And you hear this word a lot in Russian. It's sort of a filler word. It means behold or here is when you're presenting something to somebody. How about this one? Sava. Sava. Again, notice that O is becoming an A sound because it's not stressed. And here. This is a city in Russia. Moskva. Moskva. And how about this one? Вместе. Вместе. And last one? Ветка. Ветка. Good. Another false friend. This one looks like a P, but is actually a rolled R in Russian. R. So that doesn't say pot. That says rot. Rot. Okay, let's try some more. Tort. Tort. If you can't roll your R's yet, no big deal. Just keep practicing. You'll get it eventually. Vera. Vera. This is a girl's name, and it also means faith. Vera. And this one? This is a city in Russia. Rostov. Rostov. There's a picture of Rostov Veliki for you. And we're going to get a little bit crazy right now and do a full sentence. See if you can do this whole sentence in Russian. Vera в Ростове. Vera в Ростове. Vera в Ростове. So let's look at this Russian movie. It's called Bop, right? It's a Russian movie called Bop. No, we remember that these are false friends in Russian, right? So how do you say the name of this Russian movie? Vor. Vor. So the translation of that would be the thief. Okay, how about this? This is a guidebook. Let's try and read it and see if you can figure out what it's a guide for. Let's start with this big word here. Metro. Metro. Okay, this is a big word. Let's break it down. Moskovskaya. Moskovskaya. Metro Moskovskaya. Metro Moskovskaya. Any wild guesses about what this is about? Well, we've seen this word Moskva before, which was Moscow. So this is a guidebook about the Moscow Metro, which in my opinion is the 8th wonder of the world. Okay, so let's practice what we've learned so far. How about this one? This is one of my favorite parts about studying the Russian language. Mat. Mat. Which means swear words. How about this one? Krest. Krest. Good, that means a cross. And this? Trava. Trava. And this one? Oh, that means grass, by the way. And this one? Moskva Reka. Moskva Reka. So do you remember what Moskva means? Moscow. And Reka means river. So there it is, the Moscow River flowing through the middle of Moscow. Okay, another false friend. H. Do you think that says ham? No. It says nam. 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 And notice that ah sounds in Russian don't ever become like an a or an ah sound like they do in English. They're most likely always an ah. Or they become sort of a sound at the end of a word. Okay, try this one. On. On. And while we're at it, we can do she. Anna. Anna. Okay. Reka. Where did we just see that word before? Reka. Oh, river. Reka Neva. Reka Neva. The Neva is the river that flows through the middle of St. Petersburg. Here's another phrase. Vasne. Vasne. And lastly, Okean. Okean. How about you try and guess what you think that means? Any guesses? Ocean. Okay, now to this poster. What do you think he's saying here? He's saying нет. What do you think he's saying нет to? Вот водка. Водка. И он говорит нет. Good. Okay, another false friend. My students always really struggle with this one. I don't know why, but they always have a hard time remembering that the Y in Russian is actually pronounced as an U and not an E sound. So let's practice. Ну. Ну. You'll hear Russians say this all the time. It means sort of so, well, it's kind of a filler word. You'll hear it all the time, and that's how it's written. How about this? This is the sound you make when you knock on somebody's door. Tuk tuk, right? I mean, you don't actually make that sound. It's just, that's how you say knock knock in Russian, is tuk tuk. Okay, how about this one? Vru. Vru, which means I'm lying. And this one? Ruka. Ruka. And here's a phrase for it. We've seen that word somewhere before. Try reading it. В Москву. В Москву. To Moscow. Awesome. Okay. See if you can read this sign. And then up there I have the question, what is this? Что это? So what's the name of this, whatever it is? Mu. That's also what a cow says. And это, you should be able to read that. Mu, это ресторан. It's a restaurant in Moscow that you'll see all over the place. Okay, our last false friend, X. In Russian, the X makes a ch sound, kind of like you're clearing the back of your throat. Ch. And it's transliterated as KH. So, for example, Chekhov, Anton Chekhov, that's how you would write his name, is with that KH sound in English. But in Russian, it's written with this sound. So, let's practice. Sukha. Sukha. Good. And this one? Naverch. Naverch. How about this one? Khor. Khor. You want to take a guess what you think that means? Okay, I think you maybe have a dirty mind. It's not whore, it's a choir. Mucha. And here's a phrase for you. A narkomanach. A narkomanach. About drug dealers. I told you there was going to be some pretty random stuff in here. That's why you don't need to bother memorizing anything. Okay, so let's do a review. Miech. Miech. How about this one? Snova. Snova means again. В рукавах. В рукавах. In sleeves. Again, very random phrases here. Okay, this last one in the red is a letter you don't know yet, but I just want you to try and sound out the rest of the word and see if you can just make an educated guess what you think this word is. So let's try sounding it out. Amer, we don't know what that is. Ka. Amer, ka. America. Ah, okay, so this must make an E sound. America. Awesome, you just learned a new letter without even being taught it. Okay, since we already did America, let's try and do this one. Okay, so we just skip the letter we don't necessarily know yet and just try and figure the rest of it out. Amerikanskoye. Amerikanskoye. So that means American. This one means America. This one means Americans, like an American something. Great. So see how you can just sort of use the powers of deduction and just sort of figure things out based on context. So you just figured out a new letter even though I didn't teach it to you. Congratulations. Okay, so our next kind of friend might be a little bit of a stretch, but I call it a kind of friend because this letter, this Russian letter, when written in cursive, looks exactly like our cursive version of the letter. So this is the letter Z. Right? Our cursive Z kind of looks like this, and so does, and the cursive Z in Russian looks exactly like our cursive Z. So this is the letter Z. Let's practice reading it. This is a Russian girl's name. Zuzana. Zuzana. So it'd kind of be like Susanna in English. How about this one? This is a type of flower. Rosa. Rosa. That can also be a girl's name as well in Russian. Any guesses of what flower you think it is? Rose. Right. How about this one? This is also a cognate with English. Zona. Zona. Do you have any guesses what it might mean? zone. So in Russian, you'll see a lot of times that there will be cognates where they kind of sound similar, they look similar, and you can kind of figure out what it is. How about this one? Okay, so there's a letter in there. A red letter means it's a letter we don't know, but I'm going to give you a context, and you should be able to guess what you think that letter is. Okay, I just helped you out. Take a wild guess what you think that letter is and how you say this word. So, what do you think it is? Zebra. Zebra. Good. So, just based on context, what do you think that letter is? It's a B. Good. And we'll get to it later on in the video. Okay, this is a famous channel you might find when watching Russian television. What's the name of it? Muz TV. Muz TV, which stands for Музыкальное телевидение, music television, just like MTV. Okay, so let's practice with our false friends. These are all places. Okay, this one's in Canada. Toronto. Toronto. Good. And this one, we've seen that one lots so far. Moskva. Moskva. This one, this is an American state. Vermont. Vermont. Good. This is a city in Canada. Vancouver. Vancouver. Good. This is a city in Russia we already talked about. Rostov. Rostov. Okay, how about this one? Krakow. Krakow. That's a city in Poland. Or it would be Krakow in English. Okay, this is a city in California. San Jose. San Jose. Good. Russian doesn't have a h sound, so they either do a h or a g. And this is an American state. Texas. Texas. Not Texas. Texas. And there's a red letter again, maybe something, we've already seen this letter before. Just see if you can read the rest of the letter and make an educated guess. Zona. So what do you think that red letter is? E. Good. Arizona. Arizona. Good. You figured it out. You're a genius. Let's go to the next letter. Oh, here's some more practice. Okay, let's try this one. We've already seen this one before. It was in the name of that Russian movie. Vor. Нет, which means, anybody know? No. How about this one? Zona. Zona. Good. This is again a very random phrase, but it's just there to help you learn to read. 100 тортов. 100 тортов means 100 cakes. How about this one? Наверх. Наверх, meaning to the top of something. Okay. We've seen this one before. В Москву. В Москву means, what city is that? Moscow, right. So this means to Moscow. How about this one? This is that full sentence we read before. Vera в Ростове. Vera в Ростове. Vera is in Rostov. And then this is one of the first phrases you'll learn in Russian. See if you can read it. Как вас зовут? Как вас зовут? Меня зовут Жанна. Good. Okay, now we start into another section called our Greek friends. These are letters that came from the Greek alphabet, and so to this day, maybe if you're in a sorority or a fraternity, you recognize a lot of these letters. If you don't know any Greek letters, then all right, just learn them as completely new letters. And if you ever learn Greek alphabet someday, then you will already know some of these letters. Okay, so this one is based on the Greek pi, and it's a P sound. The way I help my students remember this is, look, it looks like a plateau, right? And plateau starts with what letter? P. Good. So let's try and read it. Para. Para. Good. In Russia, that's sort of, you have two lectures back to back, and they're known as para. It also can mean a couple. Okay? Пока. Пока. Good. You may have said poka here, and that's okay because you're still learning when the O is pronounced as an A and when the O is actually pronounced as an O. That's okay. It's a mistake you'll make at first until you get really good at knowing just how words are pronounced. How about this one? This is an entire sentence for you. Okay, here we go. Ready? Он потеет. Он потеет. He is sweating. Again, not something I think you're going to use your first day in Russia, but these are all just here to help you practice reading. How about this one? Stop. Stop. Good. And you can take a guess what you think that might mean. Okay. See if you can figure out who this is about. What does it say? Again, it should be pretty easy to figure out based on context, but I want you to actually read the letters in Russian. Let's do it together. Superman. Superman. Good. There you go. Superman. Okay? Here's another Greek friend. So in Greek, this would be delta. And in Russian, it's a D sound. It looks a little bit different than the Greek version. See, the Greek version is just a triangle, and the Russian version sort of has these little legs on it. So practice reading this first one. Da. Da. Good. This means yes in Russian. How about this one? Drama. Drama. You want to take a guess what you think that means? Good. Drama. Or it means, sorry, I just said it in Russian. It means drama. Good. How about this one? Doza. Good. And here's an entire sentence for you. Let's get crazy here. An entire sentence. Practice reading that. Here we go. Ветер дует. Ветер дует. The wind is blowing. Good. Okay. Another Greek one that comes sort of from Greek. It's sort of changed over the years and doesn't necessarily look like the Greek version anymore. But this one is L. So based on the Greek llama. Okay. So real quick, I put P and L side by side for you because I noticed that my students get them mixed up a lot. And I've come up with a really corny way of helping students remember it. So look at this one. It's straight up, straight down like a plateau. This one is sticking its leg out. Get it? Leg starts with L. So when you see the thing sticking its leg out, that's the L, and the one that's straight up and straight down is the P. Okay, so try and keep that straight, and let's practice. Okay, so try and read this one. This is a city in England. London. London. Good. So this is where you're maybe hoping that you had kept some notes. Because you maybe just forgot what this letter was. If you haven't started doing some notes, start them now. So you just sort of make a little note for yourself, or maybe you have a piece of paper with the various Russian letters on it, and you can just sort of refer back to that letter we already went through. Okay? London. Remember, only letters in red are letters that we haven't covered yet. So don't start freaking out being like, oh, did we even cover that letter? Yes, I'm only having words with letters that we've covered. If it's in red, it's a letter we haven't covered. So that's when you can just sort of try and figure it out based on context. Okay, so this says London. London. How about this? This is an American city. Atlanta. Atlanta. Good. Here's a phrase for you. And there's those P and L right next to each other. Na polу. Na polу means on the floor. Okay, how about this one? This is a type of music. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. Okay, whoa, our biggest sentence yet. Let's see if you can do it. I'll give you a minute to try and figure it out on your own, and then I'll help you through it. Okay, let's try it. Here we go. Она не успела на пару. Она не успела на пару. She didn't get to her lectures in time. Okay, here we go. Here's a famous movie. See if you can figure out which one it is. Did you get it? Lorax. Lorax. Good. Okay, another Greek friend. This is gamma, just like this is ge, just like the Greek gamma, and it's the g sound in Russian. Okay, so try this word. Grek. Grek. Have any guesses about what that might mean? I'll give you a hint. Good. It's a Greek person, a Greek man specifically. Grek. Okay, how about this? Druk. Druk. Okay. How about this one? Подруга. Подруга. Good. And this one? Галстук. Галстук, like a men's tie. Good. Okay, famous book here. Some of these letters look a little bit different than what you've seen before, but I just want to use your ability to make an educated guess based on context and see if you can figure out what the name of this book is. Okay, so let's skip the letters we don't understand. Gar, maybe you don't quite understand that one yet. Otir. Okay, let's just make an educated guess here. Harry Potter. Good. So there's that E we've seen a few times before in red font. And this one looks a little bit different, but this is sort of the handwritten version of P. See, you can kind of see the P when I outline it for you there. It looks like English lowercase n. So Harry Potter. And remember I told you Russian doesn't have an H sound, so they either make it into a H or a G. Well, here's an example of it being made into a G. Harry Potter. And you'll have to forgive me, I don't know Harry Potter books, but is this something about the gifts of death? Is that the name of the Harry Potter book? You wouldn't believe the scornful looks I get when I tell my students that I have never read Harry Potter, so please forgive me for that. Okay. Okay, so let's practice. Налево. Налево. To the left. That means to the left. And this is the opposite. Try and read it. Направо. Направо. The opposite of to the left is to the right. Good. Okay. Here's a phrase for you. Vodka всем. Vodka всем. Vodka for everyone. And then, once you hand out your vodka to everyone, this is what you might say. На здоровье. Don't pay any attention to this letter yet. We'll talk about it later. На здоровье. And that is what's known as a toast. Good. Okay, so now we have our last Greek friend. And an interesting fact about this letter is that anytime you see words with an F in them, or especially words that start with an F, they're borrowed words from some other language because the Russian didn't have its own F sound. So obviously they took the Greek letter, and then you'll see a lot of Russian words that are borrowed from some other language if they have an F sound. So you'll see that in this list that I'm about to give you, that they're all borrowed words. Okay. So, try this first word here. And it's got that red letter that we've been seeing some places, but let's just see if we can figure out that letter based on context. Okay, sound it out. Alpha something. Alphavit. Alphavit. Good. Any guesses what that means? Alphabet. Greek word there. Okay, how about this one? Coffee. Coffee. Good. What do you think that means? Coffee, right? How about this one? Okay, so this one is pronounced kind of strange, and it doesn't mean what you think it might mean. Photograph. Photograph. And that's actually a photographer. So that's a person who takes photos. Good. This one's really fun to say. Good. Fakt. Fakt. And you'll notice all of these words are borrowed because, as I told you, if it's got an F in it, most likely it comes from other origins other than Slavic origins. Okay? And this is a city in Russia. Ufa. Ufa. Good. So this is sort of towards the east a little bit, and it's a big oil town. And here's a little brochure for it. Ufa Turisическая. Good. Let's look at this state. Any guesses what it is? Again, there's that letter we don't know, but based on context, we can figure it out. Florida. Florida. Let's go through and read some of these cities. I think you'll think it's funny to hear me read them with a Russian accent. Okay, let's try up here. You should be able to read this one here. Pensacola. Good. You should be able to read the first part of this one. Panama City. Panama City. Okay, how about this one? Again, it's got that E sound at the end, so even though we haven't officially learned it, you can just figure it out based on context. Tallahassee. Remember the X, we didn't review that one yet, but that is a H sound, so Tallahassee. Over here you've got Jacksonville. There's some letters we don't know there yet, but if you know the layout of Florida, you might have already guessed that one. Okay, let's come down here. You should be able to read this one. Orlando. Orlando. Okay. This one, you should be able to read everything except for this letter, and I'll help you out. So this is Disney World. Disney World. Okay, you should be able to read this city. Tampa. Good. Down here. There's a lot of letters you might not know. So this is West Palm Beach. This is Fort Lauderdale. Miami. And Everglades. Everglades. And there's the Florida Keys. Good. So, to finish up, let's do a review. This is a review of our friends, the letters that look like English, our false friends, the ones that look like English letters but have different sounds in Russian, and our Greek friends. And then that will finish up for this video. Okay, here we go. Mama, Papa, Sistra. You should be able to figure what all those mean. This one. Drug. Drug. Okay, drug means friend. This one. Fotograf is a photographer. This one, this is a place you might find in a city. Kids like to go here. Zoopark. Zoopark is, any guesses what it means? Zoo. Good. Here. This is a famous propaganda newspaper that you can still read today. Pravda. Pravda. It means truth. And last one. Lampa. Good. All right, that finishes up this video. You can start up in the next video with vowels, and then we've got lots more to cover. We'll see you then.